Naoto was a lonely loser that everyone bullied for being a virgin nerd. However, everything changes when one of his bullies suddenly starts falling in love with him and wants to remove virgin from her list of things to make fun of. In the beginning, some girls are chilling and gossiping in the library, talking about how they would clap Jogo instead of Gojo because Big Willie's hurt. Naoto walks towards the library, and when he walks in, he hesitates when the group of girls glares at him. However, he quickly calms himself and sits at the end of the book hall to do his homework. As the girls talk louder, he can't help but listen in to them talking about how Yamcha could solo the JJK verse. Suddenly, they stop talking, and when Naoto looks over, they all stare at him, causing him to get nervous for a little. After calming himself down, the girls talk about a certain book that can be found near Naoto, and this makes him panic. As one of the girls gets near him, trying to find the book, Naoto tries to act cool, but accidentally drops his backpack in front of the girl. She looks at what is dropped on the floor and sees some handmade comics Naoto is working on, and she shows them to her friends, making them all laugh at how clapped the drawings look. As they continue to mock Naoto's drawing, one of the girls looks at the comic, and instead of mocking it, she gains interest. Then, as the girls leave the library, that girl sits across from Naoto and smiles at him with a devious glare, making him nervous. She then starts reading out his comic about Siegfried, a warrior who saves a female knight, Elizabeth, and despite the conflict they meet, they end up falling in love. However, the girl notices that Naoto self-inserts himself into the story as Siegfried and feels sorry for both Naoto and Siegfried. When Naoto tries to deny it, she shows him a panel where Siegfried acts like a Chad and rizzes Elizabeth, who is not interested in love. The girl then starts acting exactly like Elizabeth in the comic and says the exact same dialogue, but when it comes to Naoto's turn to rizz her like Siegfried rizzes Elizabeth, like a beta loser, Naoto couldn't do it. She starts teasing him hard for trying to portray himself as something he's not, and while Naoto tries to look away, she teases him even harder, causing this soy boy loser to cry to his mommy's milk, and for her to help wipe his tears away. Then she leaves him with her handkerchief, telling him he can keep it for more of his pathetic tears, leaving Naoto frustrated for being a pathetic loser. Back home, she still haunts him in his sleep, and when he meets her at school the next day, she tries to tease him again, but he returns her handkerchief back to her and enters the art club. However, just as he's about to draw, she enters the room with him and realizes that it's just the two of them in the room. She pulls up a chair and sits right across from him, telling him that she wants to be his model. When Naoto refuses, she takes it up a notch, telling him to draw her like how Jack drew Rose in the Titanic, causing him to fold and agree to draw her normally. When it's time to draw her, Naoto struggles to do so as he has never stared, let alone touched a girl before, but she notices this and offers him a prize if he manages to draw her properly. So in the name of the almighty Snoo Snoo, Naoto gets serious and manages to draw her after a few hours. For the prize, she tells him to close his eyes.
Is she kissing me?
But she smacks him and teases him for actually thinking she would kiss her for a clapped-looking drawing. Naoto tries to defend himself, telling her to go home, but she manages to overpower this limp sausage loser, causing him to cry again, and she needs to comfort them to make him stop crying. Afterward, they go home together and she suddenly asks him to be her baby daddy, but when Naoto starts folding, she tells him she was joking and starts teasing him some more. However, she smacks his soy boy body too hard, causing him to get yeeted into the canal, causing his whole body to get wet. She apologizes and Naoto assures her it's okay, but she asks him why he doesn't get angry at her teasing despite her being horrible. It reminds him of his past when Naoto often got bullied, but instead of fighting back, he just looked away and took it. However, it's different with her, and Naoto tells her that unlike the bullies of his past, he actually enjoys her company despite her being annoying to him. He then asks her for her name, but instead of just saying it to him, she writes it down on his body, causing him to cream, and tells him that her name is Nagatoro. The next day, while Naoto is busy drawing another portrait, Nagatoro barges in shaking her hips, playing hula hoops like she's a Beyblade, and when she spots Naoto, she tells him to join in the fun. However, just as he's about to join in the fun, he sees her white galore, and it causes Nagatoro to smack him for taking a peek. Then, as the day gets dark, Naoto finishes his lunch to replenish his energy, and while nervous, he pulls out a book about vampires with big jugs and can't wait to tickle his own pickle to it. Just then, Nagatoro pops up, and when she walks in, Naoto tries to hide his book, while yapping about why Gojo is a trash fan service character to distract her. However, Nagatoro knows that he's hiding something degenerate, and when Naoto tries to hide it, she catches his hand and demands him to let go of the book. While Naoto and his noodle arms try their best to hold on, Nagatoro offers him to clap her if he lets go, but as he gets distracted, Nagatoro takes the book away and uses Ultra Instinct to avoid Naoto's attempts to get it back. Then Nagatoro opens the book to see the almighty fan service, and when Naoto tries to defend the book as being a literary masterpiece, she shows him a page of even more degeneracy. However, Naoto tells her that despite the spicy scenes, what he enjoys is the story, so Nagatoro reads it and sees the vampire romance masterpiece that puts Twilight to shame. She starts geeking out over it, but informs Naoto that she notices that one of the characters is similar to him. She points out the loser running with garlic and gets sucked dry by the vampire to be similar to him, but then she says that, unlike the character in the book, Naoto should be safe since he is a virgin loser that no vampire would be willing to suck dry. Suddenly, the atmosphere changes and Nagatoro turns into a vampire, asking Naoto to let her suck his virgin blood dry. Despite him begging her to stay away from his nape, Nagatoro shows him her canine teeth, capable of slurping his precious nectar. She then approaches him and jumps on top of him for the holy suction. But just before she sucks his blood, Naoto releases the almighty breath, smelling like garlic, causing Nagatoro to back off. However, she jumps on him again, but this time, instead of sucking his blood, she accidentally grabs the baby jewels. She pulls back, and as the light turns back on, she tells him how lucky he is to get his pickle slightly tickled. After school, they walk home together, and Nagatoro teases him for what she just did to his pickle that made him cream. She tempts him that she will do it again and make his wiener rise into a schnitzel, but as she's about to do it, she grabs his love handles instead before running away to go home. That night, Naoto reads his plotful book again, but this time he imagines himself the one getting creamed, and this causes him to start tweaking. The next day, just as Naoto is about to draw, Nagatoro barges in and suggests that they play a game where they have to figure out each other's pepperonis by poking them. While Naoto refuses at first, she promises him a present in the form of a ticket where he can tell her to do whatever he wants if he wins, starting from telling her to stop bothering him or even dressing up plotfully all the time. Because of this, Naoto accepts her game. When the game starts, Nagatoro goes first, and while Naoto fully expects her to hit the bullseye, she missed slightly. However, she starts playing Tornado on his buttons, causing him to cream and yield to her, saying that she got it perfectly. Then, when it's Naoto's turn, just as he's about to press her buttons to release her happy noises, Nagatoro folds and excuses herself, saying she needs to meet her friends. Afterward, Naoto spends his time at a diner, hoping he'll get some quiet time alone to draw his comic, but Nagatoro and her friends, Sakura, carry along two clapped-looking NPCs with them to hang out after school. Just as they sit down, Naoto watches them closely, hoping to see Nagatoro treat the boys the same way she treated him. Then Sakura leaves with one of the boys, leaving Nagatoro with another boy who shows her his homemade rap song. But while the dude is excited to see her glazing him and his song, she tells him it sounds like trash and almost made her ears bleed. The guy leaves in tears, and it surprises Naoto to see Nagatoro so different. But then the other guy sits next to her and starts boasting about how he's able to clap different girls every day and offers Nagatoro to be the next. Naoto fully expects her to bully him, but instead she coldly roasts him, calling him Limpy Willy, and causes him to walk off in tears, surprising Naoto again. On his way home, Naoto wonders if he's the only person Nagatoro teases, but suddenly, Nagatoro herself pops up and wastes no time to tease him again. Just as Naoto is about to ask her something, he stops in his tracks, causing her to tease him some more. The next day, just as Naoto is calmly drawing alone, Nagatoro barges in, asking him to let her model. When he rejects her, she takes off everything she's wearing, and while he's scared to see her plots, she reveals that she's actually wearing a swimsuit. After school, they both run to avoid the rain and take shelter together. Just then, Nagatoro realizes that because of the rain, her clothes are see-through, so she teases Naoto about it, tempting him to take a peek. However, after what happened before, he realizes that she's wearing a swimsuit underneath, so he goes straight into it and takes a look. But instead of a swimsuit, he looks straight into her Betty Blues. They both get awkward, but Nagatoro quickly composes herself and continues teasing him. They then ask about each other's addresses, and after finding out that Nagatoro's house is nearby, She offers him to visit while waiting for the rain to die out. Then, Naoto goes to her house, and upon entering, he imagines meeting Nagatoro's family where they all start teasing and abusing him, even her cat pissing on his shoes as the whole family makes him cry. However, in real life, Nagatoro shows up in fresh clothing and informs him that her family will be coming home late. She then lends him some dry clothes and a towel to dry himself, but like a true culture degenerate, he wonders and imagines if it's the same towel Nagatoro used to dry off the delicious sweat of her body. Suddenly, Nagatoro pops up and teasingly tells Naoto that it's not the same towel, disappointing him and all of us viewers watching who wanted to slurp her juices. Then they chill in her room, and Nagatoro tempts him to do what all men do in a girl's room, involving fingers and hip movements, but as he starts thinking of what it is, she gets aggressive and gets closer to him, causing him to panic. However, it turns out she's suggesting video games, and when they start playing, Nagatoro feels confident that she will win, but Naoto beats her easily, proving that he's not a simp who'll pretend to lose to a girl. It angers Nagatoro, and it pleases Naoto that he gets to tease her in return after everything she did to him. But in the second round, she blows his ear, causing him to lose concentration and Nagatoro to take her chance and win the round. She then continues to cheat and ruin his concentration, making her win over and over again, but they still end up having fun with each other. Afterward, before going home, Naoto thanks her for the great time, and she tells him to come over again. Days later, Naoto goes to the dining hall, and while he wants to eat alone at first, he quickly realizes that the place is full. Nagatoro calls him up to sit with her and her friends, Maki and Yoshi. While at first he hesitates, he ends up sitting with them, planning to eat fast and run away. They start teasing him, calling him Nagatoro's boy toy, and while Nagatoro happily touches him, whenever Yoshi touches Naoto, she gets angry. As they continue to tease him, Yoshi wants to touch him like Nagatoro does, but Nagatoro stops her every time. Seeing how protective she is, Maki calls Naoto a bug that is willing to bend over to girls, but Nagatoro quickly defends him against her own friend, telling Maki to shut her glizzy gobbling mouth. It surprises him to see Nagatoro defending him, so Naoto rises up, and just as he's about to deliver an MLK-level speech, he stops midway and just declares that he's not Nagatoro's boyfriend, which both Maki and Yoshi find hilarious as they expect him to counter their insults toward him. Following this, Nagatoro calls him out for not fighting back. She tells him that all he needs to do is give her a little smack and reverse the insults toward him into a slapstick joke to defend himself. With Nagatoro's help, he manages to do it easily, but on the second try without her help, she starts insulting him about his yee-ass haircut, and instead of defending himself, he tells her that she's going too far. She realizes she messed up when she sees him tearing up, but Nagatoro quickly lightens the mood by teasing him again and encouraging him to smack her and defend himself. However, in his attempt to do so, he accidentally smacks her plumps, causing her to cream a little. As they both stay in awkward silence, Nagatoro praises him for his attempt and teases him for just wanting to honk her melons. Days later, when Naoto is washing his hands after painting, Nagatoro shows up, scoots him over, and washes her hand on the same tap he's using. As she washes her hands, Naoto gets distracted by her soapy hands, but when Nagatoro notices his gaze, she teases him by saying that it's like they're cleaning up after a steamy yoga session. Suddenly, her hands touch his, and while Naoto panics, Nagatoro takes a step further and starts cleaning his soapy hands intensely, wanting to make him bust. Naoto quickly pulls out and runs away, leaving Nagatoro satisfied after seeing his reaction. The next day, while Naoto is eating his lunch, the club room door opens, and while Naoto expects Nagatoro to come in to tease him, it turns out to be her friends, Maki and Yoshi. They start teasing him for being a lonely loser who eats alone, but then they sit across from him and plan something devious. They ask him if he has mingled a melon before, and when Naoto starts getting nervous, they tease him for being a virgin loser who can't bag a baddie. They start tempting him with their plots, and it causes Naoto to run away, but Yoshi manages to stop him and catch him. They trap him inside and force him to touch Maki's softies, and when he does touch it, his arm starts malfunctioning. However, they reveal that Maki was using bread as her paddings and mocks Naoto for thinking that he actually touched her melons. Suddenly, Nagatoro pops up, angry and jealous, and after seeing her like this, both Yoshi and Maki run away. While Naoto is grateful that she saved him from the duo, Nagatoro is not, and while she's playing with the bread, She asks Naoto if he really mingled their melons. Naoto tells the truth about the bread, and after hearing this, she gets relieved and starts teasing him for failing to cop a feel. Nagatoro then pulls out another bread, and when Naoto recognizes it as a premium bread that is extremely plump and soft, Nagatoro challenges him to differentiate her premium bread from Maki's poor bread. She puts it both under her shirt, which makes Naoto panic, and tells him to start mingling and tell her which one is which. Naoto convinces himself that they are just bread, but while he starts touching them, he closes his eyes. During his search, he accidentally makes the premium bread slip, leaving Nagatoro exposed, and with his eyes closed, he goes to touch the other bread, which makes Nagatoro cream. As he touches it, he feels the softness and deems it the premium bread, but when he looks at Nagatoro, he realizes that the bread is not there anymore, and out of embarrassment, Nagatoro pulls out the bread and smacks him sideways with it. A week later, Nagatoro agrees to be Naoto's next model for his drawing, and when the day arrives, Nagatoro walks in, pushing a sofa into the club room. She lays on it, telling Naoto that she will use this to model instead of his usual chair. She notices that Naoto is looking out the window, and when she looks out, she sees a baseball player from the school and praises him for being talented to tease Naoto, who's not as talented or popular. While Naoto says that he's not jealous, he does admit that he wouldn't mind being praised, and Nagatoro suddenly asks him if he ever praised someone. Naoto tells her that he rarely does, so Nagatoro tells him that if he wants praise, he needs to learn how to praise others first. She then sits on the couch and tells him to praise her as training, so Naoto starts checking her out from top to bottom. But out of shame, he praises her hair, which makes her happy. He then continues praising her, which makes her even happier, but then, when he praises her kick when they first met for being badass, Nagatoro folds. Seeing how he tried hard to praise her, Nagatoro thinks it's his turn, and after she checks him out, she praises him for having a pretty ugly face, which annoys him. She then teases him for twitching his eyes and wanting to cry every time she stares at him. And while he denies this, his eyes start twitching, causing Nagatoro to want to tease this crybaby loser even more. He tells her enough and starts the modeling, and when she lays down for a pose, it reminds Naoto of his night cream session from watching some casting couch tapes. Then they do it seriously, but before Naoto starts drawing, he starts folding while seeing her plumps, and after seeing how Naoto reacts, Nagatoro teases him for wanting to cream after seeing her. Hours later, Naoto still hasn't drawn anything, but after staying still for hours, Nagatoro lays down on the couch to sleep. She tells him that if he can draw her nicely, she will give him a reward for it. But Naoto knows that she will just tease him. However, she tells him that he would have gotten lucky if he had been a bit braver. Suddenly, Nagatoro falls asleep, and seeing how peaceful she is gives Naoto the motivation to draw her. An hour passes and Naoto manages to draw her, and while he thinks that it looks bad, Nagatoro likes it, so she decides to give him a present. She tells him to close his eyes, and while he expects her to tease him, he feels a soft sensation on his lips and decides to slip his tongue in. However, when he opens his eyes, he sees a toy with a clapped-looking lip that Nagatoro used to kiss him, and while she teases him for wanting to play tongue twister with her, she praises his drawing. The next day, Nagatoro comes into the club room to tease Naoto again, but this time, despite her best efforts, she gets no reaction from him. Her friends, Maki and Yoshi, come in to take her place, and when they ask Naoto if he's sick of Nagatoro's nonsense, he tells them that he is and walks away with them, leaving Nagatoro behind, making her sad. She wakes up distressed, surprising Naoto, who's drawing beside her, but after realizing that it's a dream, she feels relieved. The next day, Nagatoro glares at Naoto, which scares him, and tells him that she believes that Naoto is sensitive. He tells her that he's not, so to prove it, Nagatoro chases him down, catches him, and tickles him, which makes him cream. Afterward, while Naoto acknowledges that he's ticklish, he bets that Naoto is the same way, but she doesn't think so, and even dares this four-eyed loser to tickle her. She shows him her bare shoulder, which gets Naoto going, and reveals that she's wearing a swimsuit underneath, ready to be tickled. While nervous, Naoto imagines himself tickling Nagatoro, which gives him bravery, but just as he's about to tickle her dead in the armpits, Nagatoro slowly squeals to the anticipation and decides to pull away, stating that his eyes are creepy. She then shows him a calming video of a sheep getting sheared, but as they watch the video, Nagatoro notices Naoto's hair, which reminds her of the sheep and suggests that he should get his hair sheared too. While he begs her to stay away from his yee-ass haircut, Nagatoro pulls out a hair clipper, and tells him that she wants to cut his hair like shearing a sheep. Naoto tells her that his barber usually uses scissors to keep his hair longer, and after hearing this, Nagatoro switches his clipper for scissors instead. Naoto feels nervous seeing the scissors, but after he imagines how Nagatoro is peacefully cutting his hair, Naoto agrees to let her do it. Suddenly, her phone rings and her friends tell her that they need her somewhere. But when she leaves the class to meet them, they are hiding and waiting to get their hands on Naoto. They enter the room, which scares Naoto of what they can do, but then they see the clipper, and when Naoto explains that Nagatoro was meant to cut his hair, they imagine cutting his hair bald and decide to take over Nagatoro's job. With Naoto being a weak wimp loser, they manage to trap him to cut his hair, but as Naoto wants Nagatoro to cut his hair, he starts fighting back, refusing them to cut his hair. However, they manage to overpower him using their plots, and without a way out, his hair is for them to cut. But suddenly, Nagatoro shows up angry, and when they see her, they both run away, leaving Nagatoro upset. Then she finally cuts his hair, which calms him down, and when Naoto sees the result, which makes him look good, he thanks her and Nagatoro folds, knowing that Naoto appreciates what she did. The next day, they walk home together in the heat, and while they can't take the heat, Nagatoro suggests that they eat some shaved ice, which she imagines to be as soft as your mama's cheeks. However, as they arrive, they see a long line of people who have the same idea as them, and while it discourages them at first, Nagatoro pulls Naoto to get in line. He tries arguing that regular ice cream is as good as shaved ice, but Nagatoro refuses his idea, stating that ice creams are only for broke peasants. As they wait in the heat, some dudes from the back smile like a degenerates, and when Naoto clocks them, he realizes that Nagatoro's sweat reveals her underwear. Like a true Chad, Naoto steps behind Nagatoro, blocking their view, and shows them that Nagatoro's cheeks belong to him. However, minutes later, Nagatoro starts losing consciousness due to the heat, and while she thinks that she can keep going, Naoto pulls her away from the line and brings her somewhere cooler. They sit under a tree, and after Naoto brings her some drinks, she feels refreshed but is sad for not getting the shaved ice. However, Nagatoro gets an idea, and leaves for a moment to get something. When she comes back, she carries 2 ice creams, one for herself and one for Naoto for them to eat together like a pair of broke peasants. Afterward, with the summer break approaching, Nagatoro reveals that she will be busy with the swimming club while Naoto will be busy binge-watching Johnny Sin's greatest hits for his research. She suddenly grabs his drink and drinks it, and then asks him to trade contacts with her so they can keep in contact throughout the summer break. He tells her that his contact is useless to have, but she disagrees, which makes him happy knowing that she wants his contact. On her phone, she shows him a sticker that mocks him for being a degenerate and tells him that she will send it to him whenever she feels that he's tickling his own pickle. They then split up, but when Naoto is about to drink, he remembers that Nagatoro drank from the same bottle, making him nervous. As he struggles to drink it, he suddenly gets a text from Nagatoro who sends him the sticker calling him Diddy, and she tells him that he's such a degenerate. A month later, a hooded woman wakes up Naoto, and when he sees where he is, he realizes that Truck-kun probably got him into another world. She tells him that he has to save the world by defeating the Demon Lord, but while Naoto feels that he doesn't have any ability, she tells him what Hagrid told Harry and that he is a wizard. She hands him a magic staff, shugs him away to fall into the world, and reveals herself as Sakura. As he falls, he starts panicking, but the staff saves him from the fall damage. However, he slips and sees that he fell onto a giant lizard who now sees him as dinner. As it chases Naoto down, he tries using his magic, but it does nothing to it. Just as he's about to get eaten, Nagatoro pops up and yeets the dumb lizard away to save Naoto. She then pulls him away to help him on his adventure to defeat the Demon Lord, and they go on to face multiple foes, starting from weaklings to your mom. However, they then face a fire-breathing dragon, and while Nagatoro tries to one-shot it, she fails and almost gets burned, but Naoto saves her using his magic. They then counterattack, and with Naoto's magic, he enhances Nagatoro's attack, making her strong enough to defeat the dragon in one kick. She feels happy and kisses his cheek, making him think she loves her, but suddenly, the dragon turns into Maki, who now joins their team, and her dragon egg hatches with a non-Nintendo Yoshi coming out of it. Then, they manage to find the Demon Lord's castle, but when they enter, the Demon Lord is not there to fight them. However, the girls suddenly Sailor Moon transforms into the Demon Lords and shows Naoto that they are the enemies from the start. Despite Naoto's best efforts, they easily tank his attacks, leaving him weak and vulnerable. They tease him for thinking that Nagatoro loves him just over a kiss, saying that a loser like him will never find love. They put him in chains and tell him that from now on, he will be their little pickle toy, and they will play with him until he's completely drained, which is what you viewers watching would love to experience. Before they get to do it, Naoto wakes up in a restaurant screaming, getting everyone's attention. Nagatoro and her friends show up, but out of fear of being teased, Naoto runs away. However, Nagatoro finds his sketchbook, filled with drawings of her as a Rule 34 character. She chases him down and teases him more for it, saying that he's been creaming to his drawings of her the whole summer. The next day, while Naoto is chilling in his room, watching TV and gobbling on an ice pop, Nagatoro calls him up to invite him to go to the beach. Without much choice, he joins Nagatoro and her friends, but on their way there, they tease him for being alone all summer, just like a lonely sea lice who can't bag a baddie. After they arrive, Maki takes off her top, revealing her floaties, and it makes Naoto flustered, which upsets Nagatoro. Yoshi joins in the fun to tease Naoto, showing him what he's missing. But when he tries to run away, Nagatoro shows him the almighty tan lines to even the odds. Then, as the plotful trio is about to play in the water, Naoto sticks behind, refusing to join in, and despite Nagatoro's best attempt to have fun with her friends, she still wants Naoto to join. While Naoto is drawing on the sidelines, Nagatoro visits him and invites him to swim. He tells her that he's scared of getting sunburned, and after hearing that, Nagatoro pulls out a bottle of sunscreen, saying that she will put it on him. He tries running away, but she strips him off his clothes, revealing his swimsuit. He tries to convince her that she should only put sunscreens on someone she loves, and this annoys Nagatoro, so she pushes him down and uses her foot to apply the sunscreen. As she starts to enjoy it, Yoshi and Maki pop up to join in the fun. And while Nagatoro is trying to stop them from putting their cream on him, Naoto himself is trying hard not to cream to their feet. It leaves Naoto's whole body full of the girl's cream and ready for the beach. They then enjoy their time together, swimming and eating. And after the day ends, Naoto acknowledges that he had a great time. Back home, while on a phone call with Nagatoro, he admires the drawing that he did of her on the beach. Days later, Naoto visits the summer festival, and while he's alone, he fully expects Nagatoro to invite him, so he goes home and plays some games. However, after waiting for hours, Nagatoro doesn't contact him, and while he initially wants to invite her, he imagines her calling him a creep, so he goes to the festival alone. He looks around, wanting Nagatoro to magically pop up, and when someone touches him from the back, he looks back expecting Nagatoro, only to be greeted by her friends. As they look at him deviously, Naoto runs away, but they easily catch up to him despite his best effort. They both know that Naoto is expecting Nagatoro to be here, but they inform him that Nagatoro is busy with her club. So they pull out a dog collar and put it on him to treat him like a pet. Meanwhile, Nagatoro has just finished her swimming session when she receives a text message from Maki containing a picture of them with Naoto, causing her to get jealous. They tell Naoto what they just did. And while Naoto doesn't believe Nagatoro is gonna show up, she comes there running, refusing to be left behind. After seeing the collar on his neck, Nagatoro tries to take him back, but Maki refuses her advance, telling Nagatoro to beat her if she wants his boy toy back. Nagatoro accepts her challenge to win Naoto back, and Maki starts the wager in a 2-on-2 battle with Naoto teaming up with Nagatoro. They play a shooting game with the winner determined by the better prize. Maki takes the first shot, and while she hits a prize, it fails to fall, and Nagatoro tells her to aim higher. Naoto then takes a shoot and misses completely, but when Nagatoro sees his face, she teases him, saying that she knows that he wants to go to the festival with her in the first place. While Naoto tries denying it, she tells him that he could have just invited her, and she would have accepted his invitation. Nagatoro takes a shot and easily wins a prize. They then continue their fun, playing other games for the wager, and after they finish, they compare prizes. While Maki's team has more quantity, Nagatoro's team has more quality as one of the toys she won is a limited edition, so she gets Naoto back to her. She takes off his collar, and they split up, leaving Naoto with Nagatoro. They then enjoy food together like they're a couple, and while they both realize that they look like they're dating, Nagatoro teases Naoto, telling him that no girl would ever approach his dirty pickle. She then invites him to hold her hand to tease him, but before Naoto gets to do anything, the fireworks start, and they quickly head toward it. When they arrive, they queue in a line, but Naoto remembers a secret spot he used to visit to watch the fireworks, and while he wants to take Nagatoro there, she gets stuck and gets carried by the line. As Nagatoro is getting away, he takes her hand and pulls her to him so they can go to his secret spot. After they arrive, she starts teasing him for taking her somewhere private. But then, the fireworks start, and she watches it in awe. However, Nagatoro teases him again, saying that a virgin loser like him should never drag a girl to somewhere dark. But unlike usual, Naoto counters her, asking what she thinks he's about to do. It makes Nagatoro flustered, but as she refuses to lose, she tells him that she knows that he wants to force a kiss on her, but can never do it because he's a loser. Naoto challenges her to do it instead, and while at first she is tempted to kiss him, they realize that they're not alone as around them are couples looking to make babies. They panic and run away, leaving the fireworks show embarrassed. On their way home, Nagatoro expresses her sadness for not wearing yukata, but after hearing this, Naoto remembers what she told him about inviting her, so he invites her to go with him again next time. After getting invited, Nagatoro suggests Naoto also wear a yukata, and even maybe wear a matching one with her. He imagines them matching like a couple, but Nagatoro tells him that she was just teasing him. A week later, as Naoto walks home from school, he walks past Nagatoro and her friends, and while he has been spending time with her lately, here he realizes that he lives in a different world from her, like a dirt mole who accidentally meets cougars. Suddenly, some dudes appear and start getting friendly with the girls while Naoto watches. One of them gets touchy with Nagatoro, which annoys Naoto, but Nagatoro doesn't like the guy's attitude. They try to invite Nagatoro to a 2-on-1 date, but she keeps refusing them uncomfortably. Naoto gathers his bravery to approach them, but he steps on a stick which gets their attention and hides back. However, they have already seen him and Maki calls him up. Naoto tries to speak out for Nagatoro, and while the guys pity him, he manages to ask Nagatoro to go with him instead. She feels happy and gets up quickly for him, which surprises the NPCs, and after seeing how excited she is, Maki and the others follow, leaving the guys high and dry. As the group walks home together, Sakura recognizes Naoto as the comic drawer, and after hearing this, the girls tease Naoto for drawing furries and creaming to his own drawings. Days later, Nagatoro notices how weak Naoto really is and teases him for being a noodle-armed loser. She suggests that he should get steroids and hit the gym. And while Naoto hates that idea, he only wants to do a workout without moving. Nagatoro gets an idea and tells Naoto to get on all fours, and while he's scared that she will take him from behind, she pushes him to do it. He then gets on all fours, and when he looks back, Nagatoro sits on his back as his weight, saying that it's the perfect workout for him. With her sweet cheeks on his back, Naoto starts trembling, and this only makes Nagatoro happier, so she starts riding him like a stallion, but suddenly, two girls walk past the class, causing them to get embarrassed. The next day, Nagatoro reminds Naoto that the midterms are close, and while Naoto just wants to go home, cream to Johnny Sins, and play video games, Nagatoro warns him that if his grades drop, he will repeat a grade. Nagatoro paints him a picture that they will be in the same class where she can keep teasing him in class, in PE, and in studies. However, Naoto expresses that he doesn't mind as life won't be boring with Nagatoro around, and this causes Nagatoro to fold and start hitting him. Later, as Naoto studies, Nagatoro and her friends watch him and continue to tease him. Suddenly, they get an idea that if Naoto repeats the grade twice, it will become his senior, which excites them. Naoto imagines himself as their junior, where he will become their slave and has to get creamed 3 times a day just for their entertainment. Naoto realizes that he has to really study, but Sakura pops up and calms him down, saying that apart from Nagatoro, the others have worse grades than his. After the test, Naoto gets good grades, and it annoys Nagatoro that he fails to be her classmate. The next day, while Nagatoro is heading to Naoto's club room, she hears happy noises from the inside. She hears the sound of Naoto pleading while her friends are begging him to let them pull it out before it's too late. Naoto makes louder squeals, begging them to stop while they assure him that they will be gentle. Nagatoro has enough and barges in, only to see them helping Naoto pull out a splinter in his finger. Without much issue, Nagatoro quickly pulls it out herself. After school, Nagatoro expresses her jealousy for Naoto, who was willing to help Sakura carry heavy things, causing him to get a splinter. She challenges him to a rock, paper, scissors match with the loser having to carry the other's belongings for 3 blocks, and while Naoto doesn't want to play, he accidentally wins the first match, making Nagatoro the loser, which she's not happy about, While Nagatoro carries his bag, he offers to help her out of guilt, but she rejects his help, saying that she's the loser. After they walk 3 blocks, they play another round, and after seeing how Nagatoro reacted last time, Naoto purposefully loses by activating his Sharingan and sees what she uses. Nagatoro celebrates her win, and when Naoto carries the bags, she tells him that he's like manga characters where they go full Rock Lee by purposefully weighing themselves down to hide their true power. After they walk another block, they play another round to determine the winner. But this time, instead of the bags, Nagatoro jumps on his back, asking for a piggyback ride. While he carries her on his back, his weak-ass arms get tired, and when she almost slips, he pulls her up, accidentally touching her plums. Nagatoro quickly jumps away and runs away home without saying anything to him, leaving him flustered while she blushes from ear to ear. Back home, she texts him, and like usual, she teases him for being a creep. She asks him what she's doing, and when he guesses wrong, she calls him and reveals that she's bathing. While Naoto is panicking, she teases him for imagining her bathing to add to his night cream session ammunition. He calms himself down, but when he looks at his phone, he sees that she's on video with all her sweet plots in display and folds. He tells Nagatoro what's happening, and when she sees that she's on video, it makes them both panic and leaves them both blushing. He assures her that he didn't see much and apologizes, but she tells him that it's her fault. The next day, after Naoto showed Nagatoro the SpongeBob and Hajime no Ippo collaboration movie, she starts shadowboxing in the club room, disturbing Naoto. She asks him to be her sparring partner, and while he doesn't want to do it, she forces him to do it. She starts throwing hands at the defenseless Naoto, but when he tries dodging her, he falls on her, giving her a hug. Following this, Nagatoro tells her friends about how Naoto used the clinch on her, and while they are amused hearing her story, they now want to clinch Naoto too, which makes Nagatoro jealous. Maki suggests they go and shadowbox with Naoto, but when Nagatoro tries stopping them, they refuse to listen to her. Nagatoro tries telling Naoto to run away, but she's too late as her friends are behind her, ready to clinch Naoto and push their juicy melons onto him. But Nagatoro stands between them, wanting to fight back. Days later, on his way to the club room, Naoto expects a peaceful room for him to draw. But when he gets there, he is greeted by Nagatoro and her friends fooling around, disturbing his peace. He asks them why they're hanging out in his club room, and they explain that their usual spot is disturbed by some smelly gamers who talk loudly and refuse to lower their volume. It surprises him that they failed to push them away, but with an evil grin on their faces, they explain that they have sent Sakura to sabotage the gamers' friend group by pretending to like each of them and make them fight for her sweet cheeks, and out of jealousy, effectively destroying the group. Maki is amused knowing that boys are easily manipulated when clapping is involved, but she points out that Naoto is the reverse and has no desire for any plot progression. Nagatoro disagrees, saying that Naoto is a true degenerate who flusters whenever she teases him. They go back and forth, refusing to believe the other's opinion of Naoto, and because of this, Nagatoro challenges Maki that if she can find a hot and dirty book in the room, she will win, and Maki has to buy her pancakes. As Nagatoro starts searching, she struggles to find it but refuses to give up despite Maki telling her that Naoto is a man who refuses to lose his virginity because he doesn't take losses. However, Naoto does have a dirty book titled Paraiso Harem, where creams and sweet cheeks are on every page, which he hides in the room next door. After seeing how desperate Nagatoro gets to find his book, Naoto goes to the room next door, gets the book, and helps her out. She picks up the book and celebrates Naoto being a degenerate in a blazing glory, while Maki and Yoshi leave the room in defeat. The next day in the club room, while they're chilling like usual, Naoto notices that Nagatoro is wearing a new earring, and when she sees his curiosity at her earring, she offers him to get his own earrings. She pulls out a holing device and offers to plunge a hole in his ears so he can wear matching earrings with her, and while he likes that idea, he's scared of the tool she's using. She puts it on his ear, and after she does it, he imagines it like she just drilled him a new hole, but when he looks at his ear, it has no holes in it, and Nagatoro starts laughing, saying that she only pinched him with her fingers. Suddenly, Sakura walks in tears and hugs Naoto, saying that she needs his help. Later, she explains that after she played around with the gamer's feelings, she got herself a stalker who's following her everywhere. Naoto thinks that it's their own fault for messing with people's feelings, but despite his thoughts, Sakura has an idea and asks for his help. To get the stalker off her back, She asks Naoto to pretend to be her boyfriend, which Nagatoro is not happy about. To stop this, Nagatoro scares Sakura, saying that if she dates Naoto, he will also become a stalker, which scares Sakura. Naoto assures them that he won't do that, and after Sakura asks him again, Naoto accepts her request to be her fake boyfriend, which short-circuits Nagatoro. The next day, Naoto goes on a fake date with Sakura, who is way out of this loser's league, while behind them, Nagatoro and the others follow. While Naoto is nervous, Sakura assures him that she will take the lead, and this loser starts imagining her holding his hand and kissing him. She then asks him if he wants to date anyone for real, and despite his face telling otherwise, he tells her no. Meanwhile, Nagatoro is jealous seeing her Naoto with Sakura, and after seeing this interaction, Maki teases her that their relationship might end up like movies where they start as fake lovers and end up in love and make 20 babies in the end. Afterward, while Naoto is wondering where the stalker is, Nagatoro brings him out and makes him beg for forgiveness out of her jealousy, saying that with this, Naoto can stop pretending to be Sakura's lover. Afterward, Nagatoro teases him for dating Sakura and having her melons all over him. But after he tells her that he didn't enjoy it, Nagatoro feels happy to know. Days later, Nagatoro offers Naoto some of her hot and steamy snaps, and while Naoto imagines her plotful pictures at first, she pulls out chicken snap snacks that she bought. She realizes that he was thinking something dirty and teases him for it. At school, during PE, Naoto runs a marathon like a headless chicken, getting lapped by the others, and because of this, Nagatoro gets the ick. Following this, she tells him that his running form looks horrible, and while he tries to convince her that he doesn't have the talent for it, she tells him to train cardio with her the next day so he can even last longer in a hot yoga session. The next day, Nagatoro pulls up in her workout costume, which makes Naoto fold, and they start running. While Naoto runs like a mindless titan, he notices Nagatoro in front of him running, shaking her hips while breathing heavily, which makes him bricked. He runs faster in front of her, and she takes it as a challenge, so she also runs faster to beat him. During a break, Naoto shows Nagatoro just how weak-willed he is, so to motivate him, she starts roasting him, calling him a wimp who can't last long and would disappoint the girls and his homies like a maggot. This angers Naoto, causing him to start running, and Nagatoro runs after him, knowing that he is now motivated. They then do some stretches after the running, and while Naoto is folding every time he sees her plots, she gets even more aggressive. Suddenly, Yoshi appears, making them embarrassed as she thinks that they're turning to Gojira. Days later, with the culture festival approaching, Naoto is still thinking about who to draw. Nagatoro walks in and wants to be his model, but he rejects her, which shocks her. He tells her that he wants to draw a dude this time, and while it confuses her why he would prefer drawing a sausage rather than some cheeks, she pulls out one of Naoto's drawings of her, stating that she knows that Naoto would prefer to draw that instead. After some thinking, Naoto accepts her proposal with the condition that she has to bring her own costume, and while she thinks that it's easy, he tells her to bring the exact costume that's in his drawing, which shocks her. While Naoto thinks that he got her to give up, the next day, Nagatoro shows up with the exact costume in the drawing, surprising Naoto. She asks him about his opinion, and when she sees his degenerate expression, she starts clawing him, calling him a furry licker. The others show up, and while Naoto is drawing Nagatoro, they discuss what their clubs are going to do for the culture festival. Nagatoro reveals she's doing a yakisoba booth while Maki and Yoshi are doing a haunted house, but Sakura shocks them all when she says that she's helping the gaming club she previously tried to sabotage. They ask Naoto what he will be doing for the culture festival, and it reminds Naoto of his past during the art club's glory days when the club was full of people with their president, Sana, leading their culture festival. However, while they did have a fantastic festival thanks to Sana, she handed Naoto the responsibility to continue the club as she and the other members had to study for their last school years, leaving Naoto alone. He tells the girls that he's going to make an art exhibit, and while they think it's lame, they suggest that he should open a maid cafe instead, with him going full James Charles as the maid. Suddenly, Naoto hears footsteps, and knowing who it is, he urges the girls to hide in the supply room. After he hides them, the art club's president, Sana, pops up, not looking happy. Naoto wonders why she suddenly shows up, and she reveals that she heard rumors of him letting girls who cost $3 an hour stay and play around in the club room. She sees the evidence around her and presents Naoto with a paper saying that she, as president, will close down the club because Naoto has been treating the club like a joke. Suddenly, Nagatoro and her friends pop up, and while Sana is not impressed by their cheap looks and makeup, Nagatoro is angry. After everything she has seen from Naoto, she tells Sana that Naoto has always been serious about his craft, and that Sana, who has been absent from the club, has no right to close the club. After thinking about it, Sana agrees to her statement and declares a challenge against Naoto, telling him that he will make his own art exhibit to go against her and the art club. And if he wins, she will not close down the art club. While Naoto feels pessimistic, Nagatoro assures him that they can beat her. Following this, the girls start mocking Sana for being a stuck-up turd, but Naoto defends her, saying that she's extremely talented, making his chances against her being zero. He adds that Sana, while going against bigger clubs, managed to get 6th place in the Culture Festival ranking, thanks to Sana's famous art. While the girls are curious about what kind of art Sana made, Naoto pulls it out, revealing Sana's self-portrait painting, showing off her plots. And here, the girls understand why exactly Sana won 6th place. Nagatoro offers herself to model for him, but after seeing what they're going against, Maki and the others tell Nagatoro that her tiny firecrackers are no match to Sana's nuclear bombs. However, Naoto defends Nagatoro, stating that while big jugs fill a man's hand, small jugs fill a man's soul. Even with Nagatoro in his side, Naoto is still scared, wondering how he can defeat the almighty Sana and her milky melons, imagining her eating him completely. Later that day, Naoto starts sketching Nagatoro already, and while he thinks that he's not good enough, Nagatoro assures him that with her as his model, they can win. The next day, Nagatoro tries out different costumes to compete with Sana's thick plots, but after realizing she holds no chance, she goes and wears a white robe. The others walk in and is in shock to see Nagatoro so bold, and while Maki is playing with Nagatoro, Naoto decides that he wants to draw alone. He tells Nagatoro that he doesn't want to embarrass her, and while she states that she doesn't care, Naoto refuses her help, stating it's between him and Sana. It upsets Nagatoro, making her run away, leaving Naoto alone. The next day, Naoto arrives to his club room and starts painting a new lifeless piece of turd to compete with Sana's drawing. Sana herself pops out, almost in her birthday suit, but after seeing his painting, she tells him that it's missing the most important part, love, and that without it, he can never win against her. Suddenly, Nagatoro peeks inside to see them both, and before Naoto gets to say anything, she runs away upset. After seeing how they interact, Sana tells Naoto to chase her as chasing a person you love is art by itself. So Naoto goes to chase Nagatoro. As he runs after her, Nagatoro keeps avoiding him, but with Naoto remembering their greatest moments, it serves as his fuel to catch up to her. He chases her down to the swimming pools, and while he struggles at first, he gathers his bravery and asks her to model for him. Nagatoro tries rejecting, saying that he should paint Sana's milky jugs instead of her mini plots, but she suddenly slips into the pool. Naoto catches her fall, and using his almighty Riz, he tells her that he wants her to model because her usual self is her cutest self. Nagatoro folds completely and pulls them both into the water, getting themselves wet. They sit next to each other, and out of embarrassment, she throws water at him while laughing happily. Afterward, Naoto starts another sketch of Nagatoro, and while she still doesn't understand his concept, he explains that he wants to draw her at her most normal, showing that normal is the new adorable, and this causes her to fold. Days before the festival, Naoto manages to draw portraits of Nagatoro in her usual self, and while the girls are impressed by the results, they are curious of what Sana made to compete. With her painting next door, they decide to take a peek, and while Naoto refuses to do so out of anxiety, Nagatoro assures her that they'll be fine. The girls then go next door to see Sana's painting, and after they're finished, it leaves them traumatized due to how majestic and plotful it is. The girls suggest that they should get involved and find another way to win, but Naoto tells them that this battle is between Sana against him and Nagatoro, which Nagatoro is happy to hear. Afterward, while Naoto is on a walk with Sana, she tells him that she won't hold back against which he understands. She then pulls out a Nagatoro doll, and Naoto knows that the girls are up to something. The next day, both Naoto and Sana are getting interviewed by the school journalist, and while Sana answers with composure, Naoto answers like he's choking on a carrot. Suddenly, Nagatoro and her friends in cat costumes pop up, and while Nagatoro doesn't seem happy, with Maki's encouragement, they start dancing, saying that they will bully people. The journalists announce it to the whole school and gives Naoto's exhibit some traffic of people who are curious. Nagatoro pulls them to the paintings, and while she doesn't want to, she forces herself to bully them like how she usually bullies Naoto, and this pleases the visitors who likes getting bullied and creamed by girls like Nagatoro. It gives Naoto more traffic than what he expected, but it's still not enough to go against Sana's outrageous self-portrait where every boy that admires it has to go to the toilet after. Naoto is still happy with how many people comes to his exhibit, but when he sees Nagatoro bully other people other than himself, he gets jealous. Some girls appear and start glazing Naoto, asking him to teach them how to paint, and this makes Nagatoro jealous as well. She expresses her jealousy of his newly found popularity with the girls, but Naoto tells Nagatoro that he wouldn't be in this position without her, and he thanks her for being his model. With a smile on her face, she smacks him and calls him a degenerate while trying to hide her happiness. After they have lunch together, they walk to the art exhibit to see that Sana's painting is being confiscated by the moral committee. Sana tries defending her craft, saying that she's allowed to have the freedom of expression, but the moral committee deems her art to be too crazy that it caused the men's toilet to be fully glazed with sticky cream. While his victory is already sealed, Naoto joins in defending Sana, telling the moral committee that because of her drawings, it gives him the inspiration to know that he wanted to draw Nagatoro. Maki then pushes Nagatoro to also support him, and she tells the committee that even as a woman, she acknowledges how beautiful Sana's art piece is. As proof, Yashi steps forward with her camera to show the committee that while there are boys who were creaming to the painting, there are also artistic people who took the art piece seriously. Then they wait for the result, and when Sana comes back, she informs them that her painting will not be taken down with the conditions that she has to start a survey from her visitors. They celebrate the decision, but Nagatoro asks Sana if that means she has lost, and Sana rips apart the termination paper, saying that the art club will not be closed. However, the girls want something more, and they want for Sana to face a punishment. And while Naoto is against this idea, Sana thinks it's fair. Later, Sana comes to the club room in a bunny girl costume, shocking Naoto, and she explains that her punishment was to help sell the cat merch. However, she tells Naoto that it awakens a new sensation inside of her where she likes being ogled in public. Meanwhile, Nagatoro is walking herself back to the club room and is greeted with Sana asking Naoto to take her from the back. As Nagatoro panics, Sana tells her that she's joking and that she's here to see her competition's paintings. With admiration, Sana tells them that she's impressed and that she can feel the love behind the art. It shocks the both of them, and when Nagatoro asks Naoto if there's really love in the drawing, Naoto doesn't get to answer as the school announces the concert is about to start. Instead of answering her directly, Naoto bravely invites her to go to the concert with him, and she happily pulls him there, knowing how he feels for her. Days later, while she's asleep, Naoto draws her again, and when she wakes up, she checks on the drawing. It impresses her, and unlike last time, Nagatoro gives him a present by kissing his cheek. They both blush, and Nagatoro runs away, leaving Naoto with his beautiful drawing of Nagatoro.